My name's Layla Carter. I'm 29. And today, I washed my sister's heels like I was her maid. The smell of shoe polish clung to my hands like shame. My knees ached from crouching on the tiled floor of my parents' front porch, a small bucket of soapy water beside me. The hot Texas sun blazed above, but the heat inside me was worse, the kind that simmers just beneath the skin when you've been humiliated in front of the people who are supposed to love you. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Useless burden, my mom had said right before lunch. Her voice was sharp enough to cut bone. You've got no job, no kids, no degrees. Least you can do is clean something. Then she turned to my sister, Amanda, Miss Perfect Amanda, who stood there in a tight silk dress and 6-inch designer heels. You're going to scratch my hardwood with those, Mom said, barely glancing at me. Make Layla clean them. Amanda didn't miss a beat. She slipped off her heels, walked up to me, and dropped them right in front of me with a sickening smirk. Start with these, she said. And don't chip the polish. Poor people always rush. Everyone laughed. My dad snorted into his whiskey glass, shaking his head like he didn't know where he'd gone wrong with me. My brother Kyle kept his eyes on his phone, pretending not to hear. My uncle muttered something about freeloaders, and my aunt whispered that maybe it was time I got therapy or something. I didn't say a word. Not a single word. Because the second I opened my mouth, I knew I'd scream. Or cry. Or worse, beg. And I'd promised myself I'd never beg again. So I knelt down in silence and dipped Amanda's expensive shoes into the bucket. The soap stung my hands. The humiliation stung worse. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that every second of this, I was timing it. Because my husband was on his way. And when he arrived, no one would be laughing anymore. See, no one in my family knew I was married. Not really. They thought I was dating some broke guy from downtown, some artsy drifter they refused to meet. They called him imaginary, or worse, embarrassing. But truth is, I married Daniel Carter in a quiet ceremony in Manhattan 9 months ago. He's 35, CEO of a robotics firm that just signed a multi-million-dollar deal with a tech conglomerate. He doesn't wear flashy suits. He doesn't show off. That's why I loved him. He noticed me when no one else did. He listened when I was invisible. And he never once made me feel small. We kept it quiet because I didn't want the circus. I didn't want my parents latching onto him or pretending they'd raised me into someone worthy of him. I needed time. I needed proof that the love was real. But today was the final straw. I scrubbed the heels slowly, my hands shaking. Amanda leaned against the wall, scrolling through her phone, tossing her blonde hair every 5 seconds. She didn't even look at me. That's how little I mattered here. The worst part? I used to beg for their approval. I used to think if I just tried harder, if I just accomplished something big enough, they'd finally see me. But no matter what I did, Amanda's modeling gigs, Kyle's real estate license, even Mom's half-baked Etsy store, they all mattered more than anything I ever tried. Until I stopped trying. I squeezed out the rag and set the heels down, neatly polished. The porch had gone quiet for a moment, just the buzz of cicadas and the occasional honk of a horn down the road. Then my dad stood up from his patio chair, looking around as if something fell off. That's when we heard it. The unmistakable sound of a luxury engine purring down the road. Smooth, subtle, but powerful enough to hush an entire porch of smug relatives. Amanda looked up. Who the hell drives a car like that in this neighborhood? My mom stepped forward. Is that? And then we saw it. A matte black Rolls-Royce Phantom rolled up the driveway. Elegant, slow, deliberate. Not flashy. Just commanding. The kind of car that doesn't scream money. It whispers it. The driver's door opened. And out stepped Daniel. Dressed in dark slacks, a crisp white button-down, and that quiet smile that always made me feel like I was the only person in the world. He didn't look at anyone. Just walked around to the passenger side, opened the door, and extended his hand. Ready, love. The porch went silent. Amanda's jaw dropped. My mom gasped. My dad's whiskey glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the concrete. I stood up slowly, wiping my hands on the towel I'd used for Amanda's heels. I stepped over them without a glance and walked straight into Daniel's arms. He looked at me, his thumb brushing the sweat from my cheek, and whispered, "They made you clean shoes?" I nodded once, my throat tight. He turned to face the porch. "I'm Daniel Carter," he said calmly, like he was introducing himself at a dinner party. "Layla's husband. We're here to pick up what's left of her dignity, though it seems you've all scraped most of it away." No one moved.
Not even Amanda.
I looked back at them all. My voice didn't shake when I said, "Don't worry, I cleaned your shoes extra well, because from now on, you'll only see the back of them." And I got in the car. Daniel shut the door gently behind me, circled around, and slid into the driver's seat. The Phantom pulled away in perfect silence. But in that silence, I finally heard it. Respect. Not from them. From myself. Daniel didn't say anything for the first few minutes of the drive. He just kept one hand lightly resting on the gear, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on the road. I stared out the window, trying not to cry. Not because of what they said, but because I'd let it go on for so long. Daniel finally spoke. I didn't expect them to be that bad. I let out a small, bitter laugh. "You only saw 5 minutes. That was them being polite." He glanced at me. "They treat you like that all the time?" I hesitated. "Not always that obvious. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's smaller things. But it builds. You start to believe them." He pulled into a tree-lined street and slowed in front of a gated property. "Not anymore," he said firmly. The iron gate opened, and we drove down the long driveway toward the house I'd never let them see. Not once. Daniel parked under the shaded portico and got out. He opened my door like he always did, as if I hadn't just been on my knees cleaning shoes half an hour ago. I stepped into the cool marble foyer and felt the silence wrap around me.
Safe. Clean. Mine.
Daniel set his keys on the counter and turned toward me. "Layla, why didn't you tell me it was that bad?" I leaned against the wall, arms crossed tightly. "Because I didn't want to sound weak. I didn't want you to think I couldn't handle it." He walked over and placed a hand gently under my chin. "You handled it with more strength than any of them will ever understand. But next time, you don't have to stay quiet." I nodded, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. Then I asked, "Did you mean what you said? That you were here to pick up what's left of my dignity?" He looked me dead in the eye.
No.
"I meant I was here to remind you that it never left." Silence fell between us, but it wasn't heavy. It was grounding. That evening, I got a message from Amanda. "Who is he? Why didn't you tell us you got married?" Then another. "Mom's freaking out. Dad thinks you're lying. Kyle said you probably married for money. They're all going crazy." I didn't respond. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't owe them anything anymore. Daniel poured us 2 glasses of wine and handed one to me. "You thinking of going back?" I shook my head. "Not like that. Not ever again. But I'm done hiding. They want to know who I am now. They'll see. On my terms." He smiled faintly. "That's my girl." Then I made a plan. I wasn't just going to leave them in silence. I was going to make them feel it. Not with revenge. Not with cruelty. But with success so loud, it'd drown out every cruel word they ever said to me. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Something had shifted in me overnight. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt ready. While Daniel left for a meeting, I sat at the edge of our bed with my laptop open and a coffee in hand. The same screen I'd stared at for months while trying to figure out my life suddenly felt different. I opened the email from Melissa, a contact I'd met at a networking event months ago. She'd asked if I ever planned on reviving my design business. And this time, instead of closing the tab, I hit reply. "Hi, Melissa. Yes, I'm ready. Let's meet." I stared at the message for a moment before hitting send. That was the first decision. The second? I went out, and bought a new phone. I blocked every number from that house. Mom, Amanda, Dad, Kyle. Not to be petty, but to protect my peace. But they didn't stop. They found my Instagram, my business page, even Daniel's company profile. Amanda commented on one of my photos like nothing had happened. So, happy for you, sis. Can't wait to catch up 2 hearts.
Fake.
Hollow. Two-faced. That night at dinner, Daniel scrolled through the comments and shook his head. They're panicking. I took a sip of water.
Good.
He grinned. You really are different now. I was. And 2 weeks later, it showed. I launched Layla C. Interiors, an online boutique featuring custom home decor and staging services. The traffic was slow at first, but Melissa featured me in a blog post, and things picked up fast. Orders came in. Collaborations followed. People noticed. Even people I never expected. Like Amanda's friend, Britt. She messaged me out of nowhere. Hey girl, I saw your site. It's stunning. Did you really do that all yourself? I didn't answer. A day later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was my mom. I let it ring. Then came the text. We're planning a little get-together next Sunday. Thought you and your husband might want to come. Everyone's excited to meet him. I stared at it for a long time. Then I showed Daniel. He raised an eyebrow. Your call. But if we go, we don't shrink. I replied to the message with one line. We'll see if we have time. The Sunday gathering wasn't a get-together. It was a carefully staged performance. My parents' house was spotless. New cushions, crystal glasses, fancy finger food on silver trays. Amanda wore an outfit I'd seen in a luxury ad, and my dad wore the Rolex he never took out unless he was trying to impress someone. They weren't hosting a family gathering. They were hosting an audience. For Daniel. When we arrived, 20 minutes late on purpose, the entire front porch went quiet. Like someone had cut the sound with a remote. Daniel stepped out first.
Calm.
Confident. Not flashy. Just powerful in a way they didn't know how to define. Then I stepped out. Hair brushed smooth. No flashy jewelry. No heels. Just poise. Amanda rushed over with her fake smile glued on. Oh my God, Layla.
You look wow.
And this is... Daniel, I said, not offering more. Her eyes scanned him from head to toe, calculating fast. You didn't tell us you married Daniel Carter. Of Carter Robotics. We were just reading about your deal with. We're not here to talk business, Daniel said smoothly. We're just visiting family. My mom came out, clutching a tray of lemon tarts like her life depended on it. Daniel, so glad you could come. We've heard so much about you. He smiled politely. All good things, I'm sure. I almost laughed. The next hour was a blur of awkward conversations and fake kindness. They acted like the last time hadn't happened. Like they hadn't made me scrub shoes while calling me worthless. But I hadn't forgotten. Neither had Daniel. When my dad tried to corner him and ask how we met, Daniel answered without blinking, I saw her work online. She was pitching design ideas to a nonprofit. I was so impressed, I reached out directly. Amanda blinked. Wait, she was pitching design ideas? Like, seriously? Daniel nodded. She's brilliant. She just needed space to be seen, not crushed. The silence that followed was perfect. And then, like a cherry on top, came the moment that changed everything. My uncle brought out a dusty old shoebox. Hey, Layla, remember when you used to play with bottle caps and paper dolls? You always said you'd grow up to design something big. Thought we'd show Daniel where all that started. Everyone laughed. Until Daniel reached inside the box, pulled out a crumpled sketch, and studied it carefully. Then he turned to me and said, This is incredible. You had vision even back then. He looked back at the table. You all made fun of this? No one answered. Interesting, he said, and placed the sketch gently back into the box. That was it. No shouting. No revenge speech. Just truth. When we got up to leave, Amanda followed me outside. Layla, she said quietly, why didn't you tell me you were doing all this? The business.
Him.
The house. I looked her dead in the eye. Because every time I had something good, you made me feel like it wasn't enough. She blinked, caught off guard. Then she said the one thing I didn't expect. I was jealous. I didn't answer.
I didn't need to.
I just walked to the car, Daniel's hand in mine. And as we pulled away, I glanced back one last time. For the first time, none of them looked smug. They looked small. And I didn't feel invisible anymore. A week passed. Then 2. No calls. No texts. Just silence. Until Amanda showed up at my studio unannounced. She looked tired. Less polished. No makeup. Just real. I just wanted to talk, she said. Can I come in? I hesitated, then stepped aside. She looked around the space, light streaming through the windows, design boards pinned to the walls, samples laid out neatly on the work table. It wasn't a showroom yet, but it was mine. Every inch of it. You really built this? She asked, softer than I'd ever heard her speak. I did, I said simply. She picked up a fabric swatch. Mom said you'd come crawling back. That he'd dump you when he saw who you really were. I didn't flinch. He did see who I really was. That's why he married me. She was quiet for a moment. Then, finally, I'm sorry. I studied her. Not because I was waiting to forgive her, but because I wanted to understand if she meant it. Are you sorry because of what you did, or because you didn't think I'd win? She lowered her eyes. Maybe both. I nodded slowly. I appreciate the honesty, but I'm not that girl anymore. She looked at me again, eyes a little watery. I just wanted what you have. A life that matters. You could have had it too, I said, if you'd spent less time stepping on people and more time building something. That silence was louder than any apology. When she left, I sat back in my chair and stared at the stack of orders coming in. Real clients, real work, and most of all, real worth. Not handed down by family, not borrowed through someone else's approval, but mine. A few nights later, Daniel and I sat out on the balcony, stars above us, soft music playing in the background. You good? He asked. I leaned into him. Better than good. For the first time, I feel seen. By me. He smiled. You were never invisible, Layla. They just chose not to look. I looked down at the text Amanda had sent earlier. I told Mom you wouldn't come back. She's still waiting for you to ask for forgiveness. But I think she knows she lost you.
I didn't reply.
I just turned the phone off, set it on the table, and let the night wash over me. They lost me, yes. But more importantly, I found myself. And I was never going back.